Hello and welcome to my Block 4 presentation. Picture your future self. You've just been given the responsibility of making an important decision for your company. You've been given lots of information to aid your decision-making process, but you have no idea how to figure out the right answer. Are you doomed? If you learn how to employ the topics I plan on discussing throughout this video, your job will be safe and your company will be better than ever. Through the use of data modeling and databases, information can be gathered, processed, analyzed, and evaluated to aid decision makers in all different kinds of fields. As you watch this video, I hope your knowledge on these topics, data models and databases, increases, and you'll be able to evaluate information placed before you. Our first topic today is data modeling. But what exactly does this mean? Data modeling is a term applied to the process of creating a data model for information systems. Data models serve as the actually has information placed into it. Data models house all of the data that is accumulated every single day. Now that you have a general idea of the concept of a data model, we can talk about a specific type of data model. One of the most well-known model. The relational model is popular because it is built to create a consistent logical representation of information. In this model, data is stored in tables with specific rows and columns that have titles. These titles allow for specific kinds of information to be stored in particular sections. At every single crossing of rows and columns, the information stored is called a tuple. Each tuple or variable is unique and is structured to contain individual pieces of data and information. This basic information describes the relational data model. As you've been able to observe on the screen, a simple demonstration of the concepts of the relational model, there are titles and information is sorted according to these subjects. Hopefully you now have a better idea that a data model serves as a blueprint for information, a layout which helps to filter information into appropriate sections to aid analyzing and processing of data. The next topic of this video, databases, would not exist if it were not for the data modeling process. Databases are data models that have been employed to perform their functions. They have information placed in them that needs to be stored, sorted, analyzed, and protected according to the infrastructure of the data model. One type of database is the relational database. Hopefully you can recall some of the details I just described about this data model. Specifically, how it is organized in tables. Therefore, when information is placed in a relational database, it is organized according to these rows and columns that I mentioned earlier. Because the information is organized in this way, relational databases allow for related information to be grouped together and thus easier to locate, retrieve, and analyze. Unfortunately, relational databases were not built to accommodate huge amounts of data, but they are functional for smaller amounts of data that need to be stored, processed, and analyzed. You might be wondering what kinds of databases can store large amounts of data. Two that I'm going to discuss here with you today are called NoSQL and Hadoop. NoSQL, which stands for Not Only SQL, was originally developed to accommodate the huge increase in data accumulation that has been rapidly growing in the last few years. With the continued development of the Internet of Things, gathering enormous quantities of data has become the norm, and handling these large amounts of data was a problem that was solved by NoSQL. This database has the ability to store huge amounts of data in a way that still makes the database functional and user-friendly, which can be seen in the image on the screen. Also, the NoSQL database is different from other models like the relational model in that it anticipates the structures that are needed internally to avoid wasting time and energy restructuring the data model. For instance, if you gather a new type of information, relational databases would require you to adjust the table within the relational data model to accommodate for this information, while the NoSQL database is structured in a more flexible format that allows new information to be stored appropriately without tremendous amounts of work. Another type of database is known as Hadoop. Hadoop is also used to store and organize huge quantities of data. Characteristic of this type of data is the fact that huge amounts of data are gathered and then distributed over numerous clusters of servers. This is an important characteristic of Hadoop which is illustrated on the screen, because it allows big data that has been accumulated to still be applied even if servers are down, while also operating in the most efficient way possible. In addition to these characteristics, Hadoop also has a flexible infrastructure, which allows the database to be efficient as vast amounts of data are being poured into it. There are many other unique factors and characteristics that distinguish these databases from one another. And if you're interested in any of these topics or systems, there are hundreds of resources available on the web just a click away. I did just throw a lot of information at you, so I want to provide a quick recap on what we just talked about. Data models are created to provide structure to data. Different models perform different functions depending on their organization. We discussed the relational model and how it stores information in tables in a systematic form of organization. Next, I introduced the topic of databases, which can be defined in the simplest form as information that has been placed inside of a data model and thus organized and ready to be analyzed. The relational database stores normal amounts of information in tables, while NoSQL and Hadoop are built in a more flexible style meant to accommodate larger amounts of data. So when your future self is given the opportunity to make a big decision, don't panic. There are so many tools like data models and databases that can help you process your information to ensure that the best outcome is chosen. Thanks for watching.